I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine that every day is like a fresh canvas, and you've got the brush in your hand. And that brush, that's the choices you make. Now the question is, what will you paint? You see, every single day is an opportunity for improvement. It's an opportunity to sharpen your skills, refine your thinking, and elevate your life to a higher level. But it doesn't happen by chance. You have to make it happen. One of the greatest lessons I've learned is this: success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Failure, on the other hand, is simply a few errors in judgment repeated every day. The difference between these two, failure and success, lies in the small things you choose to improve daily. It's not the big changes. It's the little changes, the ones we sometimes overlook, that make the biggest difference over time. I've summed it up to about 10 things that you must improve every day. We're going to cover those 10 areas, but we're going to move through them quickly so we can move on to our goal workshop. Number one, the first thing you must improve daily is your attitude. How powerful your attitude is. Your attitude is the foundation on which your life is built. If you improve it just a little each day, you'll find that it changes everything about your day. Now, you might say, Jim, it's just an attitude. It's just how I feel. Well, I'm telling you, it's not just how you feel. It's how you see the world. It's how you approach problems, how you handle challenges, and how you relate to other people. And it goes both ways. Your attitude is like a magnet. It draws in opportunities, or it pushes them away. Think about this. Have you ever met someone who is always negative? Someone who complains about everything no matter how good life is. Now, how much success do you think they attract with that attitude? Probably not much. And that's because their negative attitude creates a barrier to opportunities. On the other hand, someone with a positive attitude attracts opportunities like a magnet. People want to be around them. They want to work with them. They want to help them. They want to see them succeed. So if you improve your attitude just a little every day, maybe you work on being a little more optimistic. Maybe you work on being a little more patient. You'll find that doors start to open that you never even knew were there. Now, here's something to think about. Your attitude doesn't change overnight. It's a slow and steady process. You improve it bit by bit, day by day. Maybe today you focus on being a little more grateful. Tomorrow you focus on being a little more resilient. The next day, you focus on finding solutions instead of dwelling on problems. Each day, you add a small brick to the foundation of a better attitude. And before you know it, you've built something strong and lasting. And I'm telling you, when your attitude improves, everything else starts to improve with it. Your relationships, your work, your health, everything. Next, you must work on your communication skills every day. This is a huge factor in how successful you become. Why? Because everything in life involves communication. Whether you're talking to a friend, making a business deal, or simply interacting with your family, communication is at the heart of it all. And the better you are at communicating, the better your relationships will be, the better your business will run, and the more influence you'll have in your community. Now, let me clarify something. Communication isn't just about talking. In fact, some of the best communicators don't talk that much at all. They listen. They listen carefully. They listen with empathy. They listen to understand, not just to respond. You see, good communication is a two-way street. It's about expressing your ideas clearly and understanding the ideas of others. And you can improve this every day. Maybe today, you work on being a better listener. Tomorrow, you practice getting your point across without being aggressive. The day after that, you work on finding the right words to express how you feel. Each day, you chip away at the rough edges of your communication style, and you become someone who people want to listen to. And here's the real power of it. When you communicate better, you influence more. You lead better. You inspire others to take action. Tell me, have you ever had a misunderstanding with someone because of poor communication? Maybe you thought they meant one thing, but they meant something completely different. And that little misunderstanding led to a big problem. Now imagine if you improved your communication just a little every day. How many of those misunderstandings could you avoid? How many conflicts could you resolve? How much more trust could you build in your relationships? It's worth thinking about, isn't it? Next, you must improve your self-discipline every day. It's crucial. You see, self-discipline is the bridge between your goals and your accomplishments. It's the ability to keep going when you don't feel like it. It's the ability to do what needs to be done, even when it's uncomfortable. And here's the truth. Without self-discipline, success is impossible. You might have the best goals in the world, the most brilliant ideas, and all the talent you could ask for. But if you don't have the discipline to follow through, none of that matters. Self-discipline is like a muscle. The more you work on it, the stronger it gets. And you can improve it a little every day. Maybe today you discipline yourself to wake up 15 minutes earlier. Tomorrow you discipline yourself to exercise even if you don't feel like it. The next day you discipline yourself to stay focused on your work without getting distracted. Each of these little acts of discipline may seem small, but when you add them up over time, they create massive results. Now here's something to think about. Self-discipline isn't just about willpower. It's about creating habits. You see, when you make something a habit, it no longer requires as much discipline. It becomes automatic. So part of improving your self-discipline is building habits that support your goals. For example, if you make it a habit to read 10 pages of a good book every day, you don't have to rely on willpower to learn and grow. The habit takes over, and your discipline becomes effortless. I once knew a young man who was incredibly talented. He had all the potential in the world, but he lacked discipline. He would start projects with great enthusiasm, but he would never finish them. He'd get distracted by the next shiny object, the next new idea, and leave the old one behind. As a result, he never made any real progress. One day I sat down with him and I told him, "You've got to work on your discipline. You've got to train yourself to stick with something until it's done. Even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when you don't feel like it." And you know what? He took that advice to heart. He started small, just finishing one little project at a time. And over time, he developed the discipline to follow through on the big things. Today, he's incredibly successful, and he'll tell you that self-discipline was the key to it all. Another way to improve your mindset is to challenge your limiting beliefs. You see, many of us are held back not by external circumstances, but by the beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world. We think we can't do something because we've never done it before, or because someone told us we're not good enough. But those beliefs are just thoughts, and thoughts can be changed. So each day, work on replacing those limiting beliefs with empowering ones. Instead of thinking, I can't do this, think, I'm learning how to do this. Instead of thinking, I'll never be successful, think, I'm on the path to success. Each day, you improve your mindset just a little, and over time, you'll find that your entire outlook on life changes. I once knew a man who struggled with his mindset. He was constantly focused on the negatives in life. He saw every obstacle as insurmountable, every failure as final. As a result, he was stuck. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move forward. One day I sat down with him and I told him, you've got to work on your mindset. You've got to stop focusing on what's wrong and start focusing on what's possible. He took that advice to heart. He started small, reading a few pages of an uplifting book each morning, practicing gratitude each night, and slowly shifting his focus from problems to solutions. Over time, his mindset transformed, and so did his life. He became more confident, more resilient, and more successful. And it all started with the daily practice of improving his mindset. Next, time management. We have to pay close attention to time. It's the one resource we all have the same amount of, but how we use it makes all the difference. You see, time is precious, and once it's gone, you can never get it back. So if you want to achieve great things in life, you've got to learn how to manage your time wisely. And the good news is, time management is something you can improve every day. Maybe today, you work on setting clearer priorities. Tomorrow, you focus on eliminating distractions. The next day, you practice saying no to things that don't align with your goals. Each small improvement in how you manage your time adds up. And before you know it, you're getting more done in less time. And you're focusing on the things that truly matter. Tell me, how often do you find yourself busy but not productive? How often do you spend your time on things that don't really move the needle while the important tasks get pushed to the side? You see, being busy is not the same as being productive. And that's why improving your time management is so crucial. It's about focusing on the right things at the right time in the right way. One of the best ways to improve your time management is to start your day with a plan. Take a few minutes each morning to map out your priorities for the day. What are the most important things you need to accomplish? What can you delegate or eliminate? And here's a key. Don't just plan your work, plan your breaks too. You see, rest is just as important as action. If you don't take time to recharge, you'll burn out. So make sure that you're managing your time in a way that includes both productivity and rest. I've worked with many people over the years who struggled with time management. They'd tell me, Jim, I just don't have enough time to get everything done. And I'd tell them, you've got exactly the same amount of time as everyone else. It's not about having more time. It's about using the time you have more effectively. So if you want to improve your life, start by improving how you manage your time. It's a daily practice. And with each day that you get a little better, you'll find that your life starts to fall into place more smoothly. Next, every day you must build and improve your knowledge. Now, I'm telling you, the world is constantly changing. And if you're not learning, you're falling behind. The more you know, the more you can do. The more you can do, the more value you can bring to the marketplace. And the more value you bring, the more rewards you receive. So if you want to stay ahead in life, you've got to improve your knowledge every single day. How do you do that? Simple. Read, listen, study. Every day, commit to learning something new. Maybe today, you read an article about your industry. Tomorrow, you listen to a seminar about personal development. The next day, you take a course to improve your skills. Each small investment in learning adds up. You'll find that you're more knowledgeable, more skilled, and more prepared for whatever life throws your way. And here's the thing. Learning doesn't stop when you leave school. In fact, that's when the real learning begins. You see, formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. The most successful people in the world are lifelong learners. They never stop improving their knowledge because they know that the more they learn, the more they can achieve. Mr. Schoaf was one of the smartest men I've ever met, but he didn't become that way by chance. He became that way by dedicating himself to learning every day. He told me once, Jim, the more you learn, the more you earn. And I took that to heart. I started reading, listening to tapes, attending seminars, anything I could do to improve my knowledge. And you know what? Mr. Schoaf was right. The more I learned, the more opportunities came my way. And the same will be true for you. Next, there is never a good day to neglect your finances. You see, your financial situation is not just something that happens to you. It's something you create. And just like any other area of life, it requires daily attention and improvement. Whether you're trying to get out of debt, build wealth, or simply create more financial security, it starts with making small, consistent improvements every day. Now, here's the truth. Most people don't really understand money. They know how to earn it, but they don't know how to manage it. And as a result, they find themselves constantly struggling, no matter how much they make. But here's the good news. You can improve your financial situation a little bit each day. Maybe today, you start by tracking your expenses so you know where your money is going. Tomorrow, you create a simple budget to make sure you're living within your means. The next day, you start setting aside a small percentage of your income for savings or investments. Each of these small steps adds up, and before you know it, you'll find that your finances are under control and growing. I'm telling you, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. You see, some people make a lot of money, but they spend it just as fast as they earn it. They live paycheck to paycheck, always on the edge of financial trouble. But others who make less are able to save, invest, and build wealth because they've learned the principles of financial management. And those principles can be learned by anyone. You don't have to be a financial expert to improve your finances. You just need to make small, smart decisions every day. One of the best pieces of financial advice I ever received was this: spend less than you earn and invest the rest. It sounds simple, but it's powerful. If you live by that principle every day, your financial future will be secure. But here's the key. It requires discipline. It requires the willingness to delay gratification. It requires you to say no to unnecessary expenses today so that you can say yes to financial freedom tomorrow. And that's something you can improve every day. Your ability to make smart financial decisions, to manage your money wisely, and to invest in your future. Tell me, have you ever looked at your bank statement and wondered, where did all my money go? That's a sign that it's time to start improving your financial habits. It's time to take control of your money instead of letting it control you. And it doesn't take huge changes, just small, consistent improvements. Next, personal development. Here's the key. Life is about growth. If you're not growing, you're standing still. And if you're standing still, you're falling behind. So every day, you've got to work on becoming a better version of yourself. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about constantly improving who you are, how you think, and what you do. Personal development is a lifelong journey, and it's one that you can't afford to ignore. Maybe today you work on improving your self-awareness, understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, your habits, and your tendencies. Tomorrow you work on developing a new skill, something that will help you in your career or personal life. The next day you focus on improving your emotional intelligence, learning how to manage your emotions and relate better to others. Each of these small improvements contributes to your overall growth. And over time, you'll find that you've become the person you always knew you could be. One of the best things you can do for your personal development is to set goals. Clear, specific goals that challenge you to grow. But here's the key. Those goals must be aligned with your values, your passions, and your purpose. You see, it's not just about achieving more, it's about becoming more. It's about becoming the kind of person who can achieve those goals. And that's something you can work on every day. Maybe today you set a goal to read one chapter of a personal development book. Tomorrow you set a goal to practice a new habit for 10 minutes. The next day, you set a goal to reflect on your progress and adjust your course as needed. Each of these small actions moves you forward on your journey of personal growth. Now, here's something important to understand. Personal development isn't just about learning new things. It's also about unlearning the things that no longer serve you. Sometimes, in order to grow, you've got to let go of old habits, old beliefs, and old ways of thinking that are holding you back. That's why personal development is an ongoing process. You're constantly learning, growing, and evolving. And the more you commit to that process, the more you'll find that your life improves in every area. One of the most powerful lessons I've learned about personal development is this: you attract what you become. If you want to attract success, you must become successful in your habits, in your thinking, and in your actions. If you want to attract great relationships, you must become the kind of person who is worthy of great relationships. If you want to attract abundance, you must develop an abundant mindset. And that's something you can work on every day. You can become more disciplined, more focused, more positive, and more successful by improving yourself just a little each day. Next, your purpose. This one is so important. You see, purpose gives your life direction. It's the reason you get up in the morning, the thing that drives you to keep going even when things get tough. And here's the key. You've got to work on your purpose every day. You got to constantly refine it, deepen it, and live it out in everything you do. Now, some people will say, Jim, I don't know what my purpose is. And that's okay. You see, purpose isn't something you find all at once. It's something you discover and develop over time. And you can improve it a little every day. Maybe today you spend some time reflecting on what's truly important to you. Tomorrow you take a small step in the direction of your dreams. The next day, you align your actions with your values. Each day you make progress toward living a life of purpose. And before you know it, you'll find that your purpose becomes clearer, stronger, and more fulfilling. Here's the thing. When you live with purpose, everything else falls into place. Your work becomes more meaningful. Your relationships become deeper. Your challenges become opportunities for growth. Purpose is the foundation on which a fulfilling life is built, and it's something you can work on every day. I once met a man who had everything, money, success, fame, but he was deeply unhappy. He couldn't figure out why. One day he had a conversation, and I asked him, what's your purpose? What's the reason you're doing all of this? He couldn't answer. He had spent so much time chasing success that he had lost sight of why he wanted it in the first place. I told him, you've got to find your purpose, and you've got to live it every day. He took that advice to heart. He started focusing on what truly mattered to him, helping others, making a difference, living a life of significance. And you know what? His entire life changed. He found happiness, fulfillment, and a sense of peace that he had never experienced before. And it all started with the daily practice of living with purpose. Next, one of the most important things to work on every day is being grateful. Gratefulness is one of the most powerful emotions you can cultivate, and it has the ability to transform your life in ways you can't even imagine. You see, when you focus on what you're grateful for, you shift your attention away from what's missing in your life and toward what's already good. And when you do that, you attract more good into your life. Being grateful is something you can practice every day, and it doesn't take much. Maybe today you take a moment to appreciate the people in your life who support you. Tomorrow you focus on the small blessings you often take for granted: your health, your home, your job. The next day you show a little gratitude for the challenges that have helped you grow. When you're grateful, your mindset shifts from scarcity to abundance. And over time, you'll find that your entire outlook on life changes. Tell me, have you ever had a bad day where everything seemed to go wrong? We've all been there. But here's the secret. Even on those days, there's something to be grateful for. Maybe it's the lesson you learned from a mistake. Maybe it's the strength you gain from overcoming a challenge. When you focus on being grateful, even the tough times become valuable, and that's the real power of it. Gratefulness is one of those things that multiplies the more you practice it. The more you focus on what you're grateful for, the more you'll find to be grateful for. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. It gets bigger and bigger with each day that you practice it. And here's the best part. When you live being grateful, you attract more of the things you're grateful for. You create a positive cycle of abundance, joy, and fulfillment that grows stronger with each passing day. Now, being grateful isn't just about feeling good. It's also about taking action. You see, when you're truly grateful for something, you want to give back. You want to contribute, to help others, to make a difference. And that's another reason why being grateful is so powerful. It not only improves your own life, but it also inspires you to improve the lives of others. When you make gratefulness a daily practice, it begins to change not just your perspective, but also your behavior. Being grateful has a way of softening us, of making us more generous, more patient, more compassionate. You see, when you focus on what you have, when you appreciate the small and the big blessings in your life, you start to release that sense of scarcity, that fear of not having enough. And that's powerful. Because when you stop living in fear, you start living in abundance. And I'm telling you, living in abundance is one of the greatest shifts you can make in your life. Gratefulness is like a muscle. You've got to work on it daily for it to grow strong. Every day, take a moment to reflect on what you're grateful for. And it doesn't have to be big things. Maybe today, you're grateful for the sunshine. Tomorrow, you're grateful for the fact that you have food on your table. The next day, you're grateful for the lessons you've learned through hardship. Whatever it is, find something, even if it's small. You see, the key isn't the size of the thing you're grateful for. The key is the act of being grateful itself. Now, I'm telling you, being grateful doesn't mean ignoring problems. It doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect when it's not. Life has its challenges. But when you practice being grateful, you develop the resilience to face those challenges without being overwhelmed by them. You learn to say, yes, this is hard, but I'm still grateful for the strength to get through it. You see, gratefulness shifts your focus from what's wrong to what's right. And that gives you the energy, the courage, and the perspective to keep moving forward. There was a woman I knew who was going through a very difficult time in her life. She had lost her job, her relationship had ended, and she was feeling lost. Every day seemed like a struggle. One day we sat down and I told her, you've got to find something to be grateful for, even in the midst of this storm. At first, she thought it was impossible. But she started small. Each day, she wrote down one thing she was grateful for, no matter how small. Slowly, day by day, her perspective began to change. She began to see opportunities where she once saw obstacles. She started to rebuild her life, and today, she's happier and more successful than she ever was before. And she'll tell you that it all started with being grateful. Now, there's one more thing I want to emphasize about being grateful. It's contagious. When you're grateful about everything, people around you notice. It spreads. Your positive outlook inspires others to see the good in their own lives. Your generosity encourages others to be generous. Your appreciation for life lifts others out of their negativity. So when you practice gratefulness every day, you're not just improving your own life, you're improving the lives of those around you. And that's a powerful thing. So think about your life right now. Think about the areas we've talked about. Your attitude, communication, discipline, your relationships, your mindset, time management, your finances, personal development, your purpose, and being grateful. How many of these areas could benefit from just a little improvement every day? And what would your life look like if you committed to making those small daily improvements? And that's it. The key to lasting change isn't found in making one big leap. It's found in the small, consistent actions you take every day. That's where the real magic happens. That's where the transformation occurs. I've seen it time and time again. People who commit to improving just a little bit each day, who focus on the process rather than the outcome, end up achieving extraordinary things. Why? Because success is the natural result of small disciplines, repeated over time. So tell me, what small improvement can you make today? What's one area of your life where you can start applying these principles right now? Maybe it's your finances. Maybe you take a look at your spending and make one small adjustment. Maybe it's your relationships. Maybe you reach out to someone and tell them you appreciate them. Whatever it is, start today. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for everything to be lined up just right. Start with what you have, where you are, and make a commitment to improve a little bit every day. So, I want to know, what's one small thing you can do today to start building that discipline? What's one area of your life where you can start making those small daily improvements? Remember, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be consistent. Because over time, those small actions compound. And before you know it, you'll be standing in a place you never thought possible. And remember the power of purpose. It's what gives meaning to all these daily improvements. It's the why behind everything you do. And when you have a clear sense of purpose, everything else falls into place. Your discipline becomes stronger, your gratitude becomes deeper, and your motivation becomes unstoppable. But here's the thing. Purpose isn't something that's handed to you. It's something you discover and cultivate over time. And just like everything else we've talked about, it's something you can improve a little bit each day. Maybe today you take some time to reflect on what truly matters to you. Tomorrow you take a step toward aligning your actions with your values. The next day you look for ways to serve others and make a difference. Each of these small steps brings you closer to living a life of purpose. And when you live with purpose, everything else in your life becomes more meaningful, more fulfilling, and more rewarding. I want to make sure you remember this when you go home, so jot this down. Life is a journey, not a destination. And that journey is made up of the small daily steps you take. Every day you have the opportunity to improve. Every day you have the chance to become a little bit better than you were yesterday. And when you make the commitment to improve yourself every day in every area of your life, you'll find that the journey itself is the reward. So, what are you going to improve today? What small, consistent action are you going to take to move closer to the life you want to live? Remember, it's not about making a giant leap. It's about taking one small step at a time, every single day. And when you do that, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve over time. That's the real secret to success. It's not about luck or talent or even hard work. It's about the small disciplines, the daily improvements, the little choices you make every day. And those choices, my friends, are in your hands. I hope that lands with you, and I'm confident that as you begin to focus on these small daily improvements, you'll start to see remarkable changes in your life. Keep going. Keep improving. And remember, success is not something you pursue. It's something you attract by the person you become. Success is something that we all want, isn't it? But here's what we often overlook. Success is not something you pursue. It's something you attract by the person you become. You see, chasing success can lead you to frustration, to exhaustion, because the more you chase, the more it seems to slip away. But when you focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts success, you don't have to chase it anymore. Success finds you. So let me ask you something. What kind of person are you becoming? That's where it all begins. You might be asking yourself, what does it mean to become a person who attracts success? Well, it starts with developing your character, refining your habits, and sharpening your mindset. Success, my friends, is attracted to certain qualities: discipline, perseverance, generosity, integrity. It's attracted to people who add value to the world, people who are constantly growing, constantly improving. It's attracted to people who are intentional with their lives, people who have goals, people who have a vision. So let's talk about goals. You can't attract success without clear goals. You've got to have a destination in mind. A lot of people make the mistake of wandering through life without a clear direction, and they wonder why success seems elusive. I'll tell you why. Success doesn't come to the wandering. It comes to those who are clear about what they want and are willing to pay the price to get it. Now, what is that price? It's time, effort, discipline, sacrifice. But you have to start with that first step. Know what you want. If I asked you right now, what's your goal for the next 5 years? Could you answer me? Could you give me a clear, specific, and compelling answer? Because if you can't, then I can tell you right now, you're not going to attract success. You've got to be clear. Clarity leads to action, and action leads to results. When you know what you want, the path becomes clearer. Now, don't get me wrong, the path won't always be easy. In fact, it rarely is. But you'll be moving in the right direction, and that's what counts. Success comes to those who are willing to take consistent, disciplined action in the direction of their goals, even when the going gets tough. And believe me, it will get tough. But here's the secret. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. That's why becoming a person who attracts success is so important. You've got to become tougher, wiser, more resilient. The bigger your goals, the bigger the obstacles. But the obstacles are not there to stop you. They're there to make you stronger. Years ago, I was broke. I was 25 years old, and I had nothing. I mean, nothing in the bank, nothing in my pocket, and not much hope for the future. But something happened to me that changed the course of my life forever. I met a mentor, Mr. Schoaf, and Mr. Schoaf told me something that hit me like a ton of bricks. He said, Jim, if you want things to change, you have to change. If you want things to get better, you have to get better. That was a revelation. I had been waiting for my circumstances to change. But what Mr. Schoaf taught me was that it wasn't about my circumstances, it was about me. I was the problem, but I was also the solution. If I wanted to attract success, I had to become the kind of person that success would be attracted to. So I started working on myself. I started reading books, listening to seminars, seeking out mentors, doing whatever it took to improve my mindset, my skills, my habits. And slowly but surely, things started to change. Why? Because I was changing. And that's the key, my friends. Success is something you attract by the person you become. When I changed, the opportunities changed. When I changed, the people I met changed. When I changed, everything changed. But it all started with me. Let's talk about habits. Because if you want to attract success, you've got to cultivate the right habits. Your habits determine your future. You can have the best intentions in the world, but if your habits are out of alignment with your goals, you're going to struggle. Think about it. If you want to be physically fit, but you have the habit of eating junk food and skipping the gym, are you going to get fit? Of course not. The same is true for success. You can't expect to be successful if your habits don't align with success. So, what are your habits? Successful people have success habits. They read, they plan, they take action. They review their progress, they get up early, they stay focused. They are consistent. And that's a big one. Consistency. It's not about doing something great once in a while. It's about doing the right things day in and day out. Success isn't built on occasional effort. It's built on consistent effort. And I'm telling you, that's not easy. It's easy to get excited for a day, maybe a week, but can you stay excited? Can you stay committed for months, for years? That's where the magic happens. It's in the consistency. But here's something else. Not only do you need the right habits, but you also need the right mindset. Your mindset is like the soil where everything else grows. If your mindset is negative, if it's full of doubt, fear, or limiting beliefs, it's going to be hard for you to attract success. You got to believe that you can become the person who attracts success. You got to believe that you're capable of achieving great things. Because if you don't believe it, no one else will. Now, don't get me wrong, belief by itself isn't enough. But belief is the foundation. It's where everything starts. You have to believe that your life can be different, that your future can be better than your past. I'm sure you've heard the saying, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. It's true. Your mindset shapes your reality. If you believe you're stuck, you'll stay stuck. But if you believe you can grow, you will grow. That's why becoming a person who attracts success starts with transforming your mindset. So how do you do that? You feed your mind with good information. You've got to be careful what you're letting into your mind, because your mind is like a sponge. It absorbs everything around it. If you're surrounding yourself with negative people, with pessimism, with fear, guess what? That's going to shape your thoughts. But if you surround yourself with positive influences, if you read books that inspire you, if you spend time with people who challenge you to be better, your mindset will shift. It has to. You'll start thinking differently. And when you start thinking differently, you'll start acting differently. And when you start acting differently, you'll start attracting different results. Now, relationships can be a big part of this. The people you surround yourself with have a massive influence on who you become. If you're hanging around with people who are negative, who don't have goals, who are content with mediocrity, it's going to be hard for you to attract success. You've got to surround yourself with people who lift you up, people who inspire you, people who challenge you to grow, people who are on a similar path of self-improvement. There's an old saying, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. It's true. You become like the people you spend the most time with. So if you want to attract success, take a look at your circle. Who are you spending time with? Now, I'm not saying you have to cut everyone out of your life, but I am saying you need to be intentional about the people you allow to influence you. Surround yourself with people who have high standards, people who are going somewhere, people who believe in your potential, because those people will push you to be better. And when you become better, you attract better. When I started working on myself, I noticed something interesting. The people around me started to change. Not because they were changing, but because I was changing. Some of the old friends I used to hang out with, they weren't interested in what I was doing anymore. They didn't want to read the books I was reading, didn't want to talk about personal development, success, or big ideas. And I realized something. Not everyone is going to come with you on your journey to success. Some people will stay where they are, and that's okay. But you've got to be willing to let go of relationships that hold you back if you want to move forward. You see, every relationship is like a force, either pulling you up or dragging you down. There's no middle ground. So ask yourself, are the people in my life pushing me toward my goals, or are they pulling me away? Be honest with yourself. If you're serious about becoming the person who attracts success, you need to align your relationships with your ambitions. Now, I know that's not always easy. Sometimes it's painful, but success requires sacrifice. You can't hang on to everything and expect to move ahead. When I started hanging out with my mentor, Mr. Schoaf, he introduced me to a whole new group of people, people who were achieving, people who were successful. And I'm telling you, that changed everything. I saw how these people thought, how they acted, how they carried themselves. They were disciplined, focused, generous, and optimistic. They believed in abundance, not scarcity, and that kind of thinking. It rubs off on you. I started to think differently, dream bigger, and act with more purpose. Why? Because I was around people who were already living the kind of life I wanted to live. So ask yourself, who are you learning from? Who are you modeling your life after? If you want to attract success, you need role models who are already successful. Success leaves clues, my friends. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Find people who have already achieved what you want to achieve and learn from them. Study their habits, their mindset, their routines. Success is predictable if you follow the right patterns. That's what I did with Mr. Shoaff. I followed his lead, I listened to his advice, and it changed the entire trajectory of my life. Let's talk about value. If you want to attract success, you need to become a person of value. Success isn't attracted to people who are just taking up space. It's attracted to people who are adding value to the world. And here's the key. The more value you add, the more success you will attract. But what does it mean to add value? It means solving problems. It means helping others. It means contributing more than you take. Successful people are problem solvers. They find ways to improve the world around them. They bring solutions, not complaints. They see opportunities where others see obstacles. So ask yourself, how can I add more value? How can you solve bigger problems? How can you contribute more to your job, to your business, to your community? When you become a person of value, people will seek you out. Opportunities will knock on your door. Why? Because the world rewards those who give more than they take. And remember this, the size of your success is directly proportional to the size of the problems you solve. If you solve small problems, you'll have small success. If you solve big problems, you'll attract big success. But here's something else to keep in mind. Becoming a person of value isn't just about solving external problems. It's also about working on your inner self, your character, your integrity, your ethics. People who attract lasting success are people who live by a code of values. They don't cut corners, they don't cheat, they don't deceive. They operate with integrity. Why? Because trust is the foundation of all success. If people can't trust you, you won't get very far. You might achieve some short-term gains, but it won't last. True success, lasting success, is built on trust. So be someone people can trust. Here's what Mr. Shoaff told me. He said, Jim, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. That means if you cut corners in one area of your life, it's going to spill over into other areas. If you're dishonest in one aspect, that dishonesty will seep into other parts of your life. You can't compartmentalize your character. So if you want to become a person who attracts success, start by looking at the small things. Are you keeping your promises? Are you following through on your commitments? Are you doing your best even when no one is watching? Because it's in those small daily decisions that your character is built. And your character is what ultimately attracts or repels success. Now, I want to talk about one of the most important qualities that attracts success: discipline. Without discipline, you won't get very far. Discipline is the bridge between your goals and your achievements. It's the ability to keep going when the initial excitement wears off. It's the ability to stick to a plan, to stay focused, even when distractions come your way. And I'm telling you, there will always be distractions. There will always be things trying to pull you off course. But discipline is what keeps you on track. Discipline is what separates the winners from the losers, the successful from the unsuccessful. Most people give up when things get tough. But those who attract success, they keep going. They have the discipline to do what needs to be done, even when they don't feel like it. They understand that success is not about feelings. It's about principles. It's about doing the right thing day in and day out, whether you feel like it or not. Now, discipline doesn't come naturally to most people. It certainly didn't come naturally to me. But here's the good news. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. You can build your discipline over time, just like you build your physical strength in the gym. It starts with small decisions. Maybe you wake up 30 minutes earlier than usual. Maybe you stick to your workout routine even when you'd rather stay in bed. Maybe you finish that project at work even though you're tired. Each time you make a disciplined decision, you're strengthening your discipline muscle. And over time, it becomes easier. But here's something else to remember. Discipline is about self-respect. When you discipline yourself to do the things you know you should do, you're respecting yourself. You're saying, I'm worth the effort. My goals are worth the effort. And when you respect yourself, others will respect you too. That's another key to attracting success. People are drawn to those who respect themselves, who have high standards for their own behavior. So if you want to attract success, raise your standards. Expect more from yourself. Don't settle for mediocrity. Here's another powerful principle that will help you become the person who attracts success, and that's patience. You see, success doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, not an event. And most people get frustrated because they want instant results. But the truth is, success takes time. It's like planting a seed. You don't plant a seed today and expect a tree tomorrow. You water it, you nurture it, you give it time to grow. The same is true for your success. You've got to be patient. You've got to be willing to put in the work and trust the process. Patience doesn't mean sitting around doing nothing. It means continuing to work, continuing to improve, continuing to take action, even when you don't see immediate results. It means understanding that every step you take is moving you closer to your goal, even if the progress is slow. Too many people give up too soon because they're not patient enough to see the fruits of their labor. But success belongs to those who are willing to wait, who are willing to stay the course, who are willing to keep going. Patience, my friends, is a rare quality in today's world. We live in a time where everything is instant. Instant communication, instant gratification, instant access to information. But here's the thing. Real success, the kind that lasts, isn't instant. It's gradual, it's built brick by brick over time. And the only way to see that success manifest is to be patient with the process. There's an old saying, haste makes waste. When you rush through the process, you miss the lessons, you miss the growth, and ultimately, you miss the success. But while patience is important, it doesn't mean you sit back and wait for things to happen. Patience is about understanding that while you work, the results will come in due time. It's about trusting that your efforts will compound. That's the power of compounding, my friends. The small things you do consistently over time create massive results. Just like planting that seed. If you water it today and the next day and the day after that, eventually it grows into a strong tree. Same principle applies to your success. Every effort, every disciplined action, every small improvement, it all adds up. And that's why patience, combined with consistency, is a recipe for success. Now, while we're on the subject of patience, let's talk about persistence. Because if patience is the willingness to wait, persistence is the determination to keep going, no matter what. You can't attract success without persistence. Life is going to test you. There will be setbacks, there will be failures, there will be moments when you question whether it's all worth it. But I'm telling you, I've learned, persistence always pays off. Always. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is often just one thing: persistence. Successful people aren't always the smartest or the most talented, but they are often the most persistent. They refuse to give up. They refuse to be discouraged. They keep going no matter how hard it gets. Tell me, are you willing to fail on your way to success? Are you willing to keep going even when things don't go as planned? Because I'll tell you right now, if you're not willing to persist, you won't attract success. You've got to be resilient. You've got to have grit. You've got to be willing to pick yourself up every time you fall down. Success doesn't go to the person who never fails. It goes to the person who refuses to stay down. So when life knocks you down, and it will, get back up. Dust yourself off and keep moving forward. That's how you attract success. Now, here's something else about persistence. It's not just about working hard. It's about working smart. Persistence without strategy is like running on a treadmill. You're working hard, but you're not getting anywhere. You've got to be persistent with purpose. You've got to have a plan, a roadmap. You've got to know where you're going and then adjust your course as needed. Sometimes when something isn't working, it's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's because you need to change your approach. Persistence doesn't mean doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It means staying committed to your goal while being flexible in your approach. That's another quality of people who attract success. They are adaptable. They are willing to change their strategy when the situation demands it. They don't get stuck in one way of thinking. They're open to new ideas, new approaches, new ways of doing things. And that's important because the world is constantly changing. What worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. So you've got to be willing to evolve, to grow, to learn new skills, to embrace new opportunities. The more adaptable you are, the more you'll attract success. Back when I was getting started in business, I had this idea in my mind of how things should go. I thought if I worked hard enough, everything would fall into place. But things didn't always go according to plan. There were times when my strategy didn't work. There were times when my business wasn't growing the way I wanted it to. And I had two choices. I could stubbornly keep doing the same thing, or I could adapt. And thank goodness I chose to adapt. I started learning new ways to market, new ways to connect with people, new ways to manage my time and my resources. And you know what? That made all the difference. Success didn't come the way I originally imagined it. It came because I was willing to change, to adjust, to adapt. So ask yourself, are you flexible enough to adapt when life throws you a curveball? Are you willing to change your approach when the old one isn't working? Because the truth is, life rarely goes exactly according to plan. There will always be unexpected challenges, unforeseen circumstances. But the people who attract success are those who are prepared to adjust. They don't let obstacles stop them. They find a way around them. They don't cling to old strategies. They embrace new ones. They stay focused on the goal, but they're flexible in their approach. Now, here's one of the most important pieces to attracting success: the power of a positive attitude. If you want to attract success, you've got to maintain a positive outlook. I'm not talking about wishful thinking or blind optimism. I'm talking about a mindset that sees opportunities where others see problems. I'm talking about a mindset that refuses to be discouraged no matter how tough things get. You see, a positive attitude is like a magnet for success. When you're positive, you attract positive people, positive opportunities, positive results. But when you're negative, you repel all those things. You can't attract success with a negative attitude. It's like trying to grow flowers in a garden full of weeds. A positive attitude doesn't mean you ignore reality. It doesn't mean you pretend everything is perfect when it's not. What it does mean is that you choose to focus on the solutions rather than the problems. It means you look for the lessons in every challenge. It means you maintain hope, even when things seem hopeless. And I'm telling you, that's a powerful place to be. When you stay positive in the face of adversity, you develop something even more valuable than success. You develop character. And character, my friends, is what ultimately sustains success. Because success without character is empty. But success built on a foundation of strong character, that's the kind of success that lasts. So how do you cultivate a positive attitude? You start by controlling what you focus on. If you focus on the negative, on what's wrong, on what you don't have, you'll feel negative. But if you focus on the positive, on what's right, on what you do have, you'll feel positive. It's that simple. What you focus on expands. So start training your mind to focus on the good. Start looking for the silver lining in every situation. Start being grateful, because being grateful is the gateway to a positive attitude. When you're grateful for what you have, you open the door for more good things to come into your life. But if you're constantly complaining, constantly focusing on what you lack, you close that door. Being grateful and positivity are magnets for success. Here's a little exercise. Every day, take a few minutes to write down 3 things you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be anything big, just 3 things that you appreciate about your life. It could be your health, your family, your work, the opportunities you have. And here's what will happen. Over time, as you train your mind to focus on the positive, you'll start to see more and more things to be grateful for. And the more grateful you are, the more success you will attract. Why? Because a grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. Being grateful creates a positive energy that draws more good things into your life. Now, this is a critical component to becoming the person who attracts success: personal responsibility. If you want to attract success, you've got to take 100% responsibility for your life. No excuses, no blaming others, no playing the victim. You see, successful people take full ownership of their circumstances. They understand that while they can't control everything that happens to them, they can control how they respond. And that's the key. How you respond to life's challenges is what determines your success. Too many people go through life blaming their circumstances, their upbringing, the economy, their boss, their spouse, anyone or anything but themselves. But here's the truth. As long as you're blaming something outside of yourself, you're giving away your power. When you take responsibility, you take back your power. You acknowledge that while you can't change the past, you can shape your future. And that's the mindset of someone who attracts success. They don't wait for circumstances to change. They change themselves. They don't wait for someone else to make things better. They make things better. Taking responsibility is the cornerstone of becoming the person who attracts success. You see, the moment you shift from blaming external factors to owning your decisions, your attitude, and your actions, that's the moment you unlock your potential. It's the moment you stop waiting for life to get easier or for the perfect opportunity to fall in your lap. And you start creating the circumstances that lead to success. Because, my friends, life doesn't respond to wishful thinking. Life responds to action, to determination, to personal accountability. Now, I want to be clear. This isn't about beating yourself up when things go wrong. It's about owning the outcome, learning from it, and moving forward. If you fail, and you will fail from time to time, don't look for someone or something to blame. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What could I have done differently? How can I improve next time? That's what personal responsibility looks like. It's about seeing every setback as a lesson and using those lessons to grow stronger, smarter, and better prepared for the next challenge. When I started my journey, I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned early on that if I wanted to grow, I couldn't afford to pass the blame. One time, I remember, I was struggling in my early business ventures, and it was so tempting to point fingers at everything: the market, the economy, even the people I was working with. But then I had a moment of clarity. I realized that if I was going to get anywhere, I had to own my results, good or bad. And once I did that, everything changed. I stopped waiting for circumstances to improve, and I started improving myself. That shift in mindset made all the difference. Here's the thing. Personal responsibility leads to personal empowerment. The more responsibility you take for your life, the more power you have to change it. And that's where success is attracted. When you're in control of your life, your actions, your future, there's no power in blame, but there's tremendous power in accountability. So I'll ask you again, how much responsibility are you willing to take for your success? Because that's going to determine how far you go. But here's something else. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you do everything alone. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that being successful means doing it all by yourself. That's not the case. You need people. You need mentors. You need a team. You need a support system. What taking responsibility means is that you are in charge of finding the right people, building the right relationships, and putting yourself in the right environments. You have to seek out those connections that will help you grow. You have to be responsible for surrounding yourself with the right influences. And that brings me to another key point. If you want to attract success, you need to be selective about the people you allow into your life. We talked earlier about the importance of your relationships, but I want to emphasize this. You have to be intentional about your associations. Show me the people you spend the most time with, and I'll show you your future. If you're surrounding yourself with negative, small-minded, or toxic individuals, it's going to be nearly impossible to attract success. But if you surround yourself with positive, ambitious, forward-thinking people, people who are striving for success themselves, you'll naturally start to rise to their level. There's an old phrase I love, iron sharpens iron. It means that when you spend time with people who are sharp, who are motivated, who are driven, they make you sharper. They challenge you to think bigger, to raise your standards, to step up your game. That's why it's so important to be mindful of your circle. Success is not a solo journey. It's a journey where you need to be surrounded by people who inspire you, who challenge you, and who hold you accountable to your potential. Now, here's another key point on attracting success: contribution. It might sound counterintuitive, but if you want to attract success, you have to be focused on giving, not just getting. You see, success isn't about what you can take from the world. It's about what you can give. The more you contribute, the more value you bring to others, the more success you will attract. That's just how life works. I'm sure you've heard this before. You reap what you sow. It's a principle as old as time. If you sow generosity, kindness, and value, you'll reap success, abundance, and fulfillment. The people who attract the most success are the people who are constantly thinking, how can I serve? How can I help? How can I make a difference? They're not focused on what they can get. They're focused on what they can give And in giving, they create an environment where success flows naturally to them. Here's an example. Think about the most successful businesses in the world. What do they all have in common? They solve problems. They provide value. They meet needs. They're focused on giving the best possible service or product to their customers. And because they're focused on giving, they attract incredible success. The same principle applies to your life. If you want to attract success, focus on how you can add value to the lives of others. When you do that, you'll find that success starts chasing after you. Now, you might be wondering, how do I start contributing more? How do I add value to the lives of others? Well, it doesn't have to be anything grand or dramatic. It starts with small acts of kindness, with showing up fully in your work, with being a positive influence on those around you. It's about looking for ways to serve in whatever capacity you can. And here's the thing. The more you give, the more you grow. Every time you contribute to someone else's life, you grow in wisdom, in experience, and in character. And that's what attracts success. When you become a person of value, success is drawn to you like a magnet. Let me share a little secret with you. One of the greatest joys in life is to be of service to others. There's something incredibly fulfilling about knowing that you've made a positive impact on someone's life, that you've helped someone move closer to their goals or overcome a challenge. That's what gives life meaning. And when your life is filled with meaning and purpose, success is just a natural byproduct. It's not something you have to chase. It's something that flows to you because you're living a life of contribution. So becoming the person who attracts success is not about chasing after something outside of yourself. It's about working on the inside, developing the qualities, the habits, and the mindset that naturally draw success into your life. It's about taking responsibility, being persistent, staying positive, and adding value. When you focus on becoming that kind of person, success will follow. You won't have to chase it. It will find you. Success loves silence. Not because it's secretive or mysterious, but because it needs time and space to grow. Success, like a seed, begins quietly beneath the soil. It doesn't announce itself to the world. It doesn't demand attention or validation. It simply works steadily and silently until one day it emerges, tall and strong for all to see. And yet so many of us feel compelled to tell the world what we're doing, what we're planning, and how we're going to get there. Why is that? Maybe it's a need for recognition or approval. Maybe it's the thrill of saying, "Look at me, I'm on my way." But here's the problem. The more you talk about your plans, the less energy you have to actually execute them. It's a strange paradox, isn't it? Sharing too much can drain the very momentum you need to succeed. In my years of business and personal development, I've seen this play out time and time again. People with grand ideas and noble ambitions, ideas that could change their lives, talk themselves out of the very thing they set out to do. How? By telling too many people too soon. They expose their dreams to the cold winds of doubt, criticism, and distraction. And before they know it, the fire they once felt has burned out. So today I want to share with you the philosophy of keeping your plans close to your chest, not out of secrecy, but out of wisdom. We'll explore how to cultivate a mindset that values action over words, focus over fanfare, and results over recognition. Because at the end of the day, it's not what you say you'll do that matters. It's what you actually accomplish. Keeping your plans to yourself can be so powerful. There's the subtle relationship between intention and action. Think about it. Every time you share your intentions, your goals, your dreams, your plans with others, you're releasing a bit of that energy. You're giving away a part of the fire that fuels your actions. And in many cases, that fire is better kept contained, stoked in the quiet of your own mind, rather than exposed to the world too soon. One reason is simple. When you tell people what you're going to do, you create an illusion of progress. You say, I'm starting a new business, or I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And the people around you nod and smile, maybe even clap their hands in encouragement. It feels good, doesn't it? That sense of approval, that validation. But here's the danger. The mind can mistake that approval for accomplishment. You haven't actually done anything yet, but you've already tasted a little bit of the reward. And what happens next? The urgency to act diminishes. The fire cools. The dream that once seemed so vivid, so full of possibility, starts to feel like something you've already achieved in your mind. So you settle into a state of comfort, and the action, the real, difficult work that makes the dream a reality, gets postponed. This is how dreams die in the cradle of good intentions. Now, some might say, isn't it good to share your plans? Doesn't it keep you accountable? Well, accountability has its place, but only with the right people and at the right time. You see, not everyone who listens to your plans will understand them. Some will question your motives or doubt your abilities. They might not say it out loud, but their skepticism will hang in the air like a shadow over your ambition. And if you're not careful, that shadow can creep into your own thinking. Suddenly, you're second-guessing yourself. You're wondering if they're right, if maybe your idea isn't as good as you thought it was. Now, I'm not saying you should never share your ideas. No, that's not the point. The point is to share selectively, thoughtfully, and only when the time is right. You need to protect your vision in its early stages, like a gardener protecting young plants from frost. Share your plans with people who will nurture them, not trample on them. Seek out mentors or close friends who genuinely want to see you succeed. But even then, keep the details to a minimum. Don't let your ideas become a spectacle before they've had a chance to grow. Here's another thing to consider: the element of surprise. There's a certain power in doing the unexpected, in letting your results speak for themselves. Imagine this. You've been quietly working on a project for months, maybe even years. You haven't said a word about it to anyone outside your trusted circle. And then, one day, you unveil it to the world. A finished product, a completed goal, a shining achievement. The impact is far greater than if you'd been talking about it the whole time, dropping hints and previews along the way. People will marvel at what you've accomplished because it came out of nowhere. It's a reminder that action is always more impressive than words. Years ago, I knew a young man who wanted to start his own business. He was full of ideas and enthusiasm, and he couldn't wait to tell everyone about it. At every opportunity, he'd go on and on about his plans, what he was going to do, how successful he was going to be, how his life was about to change. People listened politely, But over time, they started to grow skeptical. Why? Because months went by and nothing happened. The more he talked, the less people believed in him. And eventually, he stopped believing in himself. Contrast that with another man I knew, a farmer from the Midwest. He had a vision to turn his small family farm into a thriving enterprise. But instead of talking about it, he simply got to work. He read books, studied successful farmers, and quietly implemented new techniques. He didn't announce his plans. He let his results do the talking. And when the time came to sell his crops, he shocked everyone with the quality and quantity of his harvest. People asked, "How did you do it?" And he simply smiled and said, "By working when no one was watching." You see, there's a lesson in that. The less you talk, the more time and energy you have to act. The less you seek validation, the more confidence you build within yourself. And the less you share your plans prematurely, the more control you have over your own narrative. It's not about secrecy. It's about strategy. It's about knowing that your dreams are worth protecting and that your actions will always speak louder than your words. How many times have you shared a plan or a goal with someone only to feel the motivation slip away afterward? How many times have you let the opinions of others influence your path? These are important questions because they reveal how much power we give away when we speak too soon. But the good news is, you can take that power back. You can choose to focus on action, to guard your dreams, and to let your success be the thing that speaks for you. The world is full of noise, isn't it? Opinions, distractions, unsolicited advice, they're everywhere. And when you start sharing your dreams too freely, you're inviting that noise into your life. You're opening the door to criticism, doubt, and even envy. These are forces that can derail even the best laid plans if you're not careful. Think about it. When you tell someone about your big idea, how often do they respond with genuine enthusiasm and support? Sometimes they do, but often people respond with caution, skepticism, or even subtle discouragement. They might say, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Or, "That sounds risky." Or, "I knew someone who tried that and failed." These comments might seem harmless, but they can plant seeds of doubt in your mind. And doubt is a dangerous thing. It can grow quickly and choke the roots of your ambition. But it's not just the doubters you need to watch out for. There are also the envious, the people who resent your ambition because it reminds them of what they haven't accomplished. They might not say it outright, but their subtle negativity can drain your energy just the same. And then there are the well-meaning advisors, the ones who genuinely want to help, but end up confusing you with conflicting opinions and unsolicited suggestions. All of this noise can pull you away from your original vision, leaving you scattered and uncertain. That's why discretion is so powerful. When you keep your plans to yourself, you're protecting your focus. You're creating a quiet space where your ideas can grow, free from the interference of others. It's like building a greenhouse for your dreams, a place where they can flourish in the right conditions until they're strong enough to face the elements. It's important to start building momentum. Momentum is a precious thing. It's the forward motion you create when you take consistent, purposeful action toward your goals. And here's the key. Momentum thrives in silence. When you're focused on doing the work rather than talking about the work, you build a rhythm. Each small step you take reinforces the next. And before you know it, you've made significant progress. But when you start talking about your plans prematurely, you disrupt that rhythm. You shift your focus from action to explanation, from doing to justifying. And every moment you spend explaining yourself is a moment you're not moving forward. It's like trying to drive a car while constantly stopping to show people where you're going. You lose speed, and worse, you lose the sense of purpose that comes from staying in motion. I want to share another story with you, one that illustrates the power of momentum and discretion. There was a friend of mine who decided to write a book. It was a lifelong dream, and he was determined to make it happen. But instead of announcing his plans to the world, he quietly set a goal to write 500 words a day, every day, until the book was finished. He didn't tell anyone what he was doing, not even his closest friends. He just worked day after day in silence. Months later, he finally shared it with a small circle of trusted people. Their reaction? Pure admiration. They were amazed at what he had accomplished, not just because the book was good, but because he had done it without seeking attention or validation. And when the book was published, it was a success, not because of any grand announcements, but because the work spoke for itself. Now, let me tell you about another friend of mine, someone who was equally passionate about writing. But instead of getting to work, he spent months talking about his plans. He'd call with updates, share outlines, and ask for opinions on every little detail. The more he talked, the less he wrote. And eventually, the project fizzled out. Why? Because he spent all his energy seeking approval instead of building momentum. There's a powerful lesson in these two stories. Action breeds confidence, while too much talking breeds hesitation. When you take consistent action, even in small doses, you prove to yourself that you're capable. You build a track record, a sense of accomplishment that fuels your progress. But when you talk too much, you get stuck in the realm of possibilities. What could be, what might be, without ever crossing the bridge to reality. Here's the thing. Some people worry that keeping their plans private makes them seem secretive or aloof. But here's the truth. Discretion isn't about shutting people out. It's about preserving your focus. It's about recognizing that your dreams are precious and that not everyone deserves a front row seat to your journey. Think of it this way. When you're planting a garden, you don't invite the whole neighborhood to walk through the soil before the seeds have sprouted. You protect the ground, you water it carefully, and you wait until the first shoots appear. Only then do you invite others to admire the fruits of your labor. The same principle applies to your goals. By keeping them private, you're not being secretive, you're being strategic. You're giving yourself the space to grow, to learn, and to adapt without the pressure of external expectations. And when the time comes to share your success, it will be all the more powerful because it's backed by real results. So, here's a challenge for you. The next time you set a goal, resist the urge to announce it to the world. Instead, channel that energy into action. Write it down, make a plan, and take the first step, quietly, deliberately, and with full focus. Remember, the goal isn't to impress others with your intentions. It's to impress yourself with your accomplishments. There's something profoundly liberating about moving in silence. It frees you from the weight of external expectations and allows you to operate on your own terms. Think about it. When you announce your plans to the world, you're putting yourself under a spotlight. Suddenly, people are watching, waiting, and maybe even judging. That pressure can be stifling, especially in the early stages of a project when things are still uncertain and fluid. You see, success is rarely a straight line. It's a journey of trial and error, of taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And when you're under the public eye, those setbacks can feel magnified. Every misstep becomes a potential point of criticism, every delay a source of scrutiny. But when you keep your plans private, you give yourself the freedom to fail quietly, to learn from your mistakes without the added burden of outside opinions. This is why discretion isn't just a strategy. It's a gift you give to yourself. It's a way of creating a safe space where you can experiment, grow, and refine your ideas without distraction. And here's the beautiful thing. When you're not seeking approval or validation, you become more connected to your own instincts. You start to trust yourself more deeply, to rely on your own judgment rather than the opinions of others. I know what you're thinking. Isn't feedback important? Don't I need input from others to make my ideas better? And the answer is yes. Feedback is invaluable. But it has to come at the right time and from the right people. Not everyone is qualified to give you constructive input, and not every stage of your journey is the right time to seek it. Early on, when your vision is still taking shape, it's better to focus on the work itself. Once you've made progress, once you've built something tangible, that's the time to invite feedback from people you trust and respect. I once worked with a man who was incredibly gifted at spotting opportunities. He had a knack for seeing potential where others saw obstacles. But he had one fatal flaw. He couldn't stop talking about his ideas. Every time he came up with a new concept, he'd rush to share it with anyone who would listen. And what happened? More often than not, someone else would act on the idea before he did. He gave away his advantage by revealing his plans too soon. Contrast that with another businessman I knew, a quiet, unassuming fellow who rarely talked about what he was working on. He wasn't flashy or boastful, but he had a remarkable ability to execute. While others were busy talking, he was busy building. And when he unveiled his work, it was always impressive, well thought out, polished, and ready for the world to see. He didn't need to announce his intentions because his results spoke louder than words ever could. This brings us to another key principle. Results are your best advertisement. When you achieve something significant, people will take notice without you having to say a word. Your success will naturally attract attention, and that attention will be far more meaningful than anything you could have generated by talking about your plans prematurely. Think of it as a ripple effect. Your actions create waves that reach far and wide, touching people in ways that words never could. But there's another reason to keep your plans private, one that's often overlooked. It has to do with the power of focus. When you share your plans with others, you're not just giving away energy, you're also inviting distractions. People will start asking questions, offering suggestions, and sharing their own ideas, which can pull you in a dozen different directions. Before you know it, you've lost sight of your original goal, and your once clear vision has become muddled. Focus is one of the most precious resources you have. It's what allows you to channel your energy toward a single point, to cut through the noise and make real progress. And the best way to protect your focus is to limit the number of people who have access to your plans. The fewer voices you have in your ear, the easier it is to stay on track. What would it look like if you applied this principle to your own life? Imagine starting a new project, a business, a creative endeavor, a personal goal, and telling no one about it. Imagine working quietly, steadily, without seeking validation or approval. What might you accomplish in that space of silence? How much further could you go without the weight of outside expectations? This is the essence of what we're talking about today. The freedom to work on your own terms, the power to let your actions speak louder than your words, and the wisdom to protect your dreams until they're ready to be shared. It's not about being secretive or aloof. It's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that your energy, your focus, and your momentum are too valuable to waste on idle chatter. And when the time comes to reveal what you've been working on, when the results are there for all to see, you'll find that your success carries a weight, a substance that words alone could never convey. You'll have the satisfaction of knowing that you didn't just talk about your dreams. You made them a reality. So the idea of keeping your plans private isn't about withholding or hiding. It's about understanding the value of your energy and focus. It's about protecting the fragile beginnings of your dreams, nurturing them in silence until they're strong enough to stand on their own. It's about recognizing that action is always more powerful than words, and that results speak louder than any announcement ever could. When you choose to keep your plans to yourself, you're making a statement, not to the world, but to yourself. You're saying, I trust my ability to see this through. I don't need applause to get started, and I don't need permission to pursue my goals. That kind of confidence is rare, and it's incredibly powerful. It gives you the freedom to act without fear, to learn from your mistakes without judgment, and to grow at your own pace. And here's the beautiful part. When you succeed, you'll inspire others, not by what you said you were going to do, but by what you've actually done. Your actions will become a beacon, a reminder to others that real progress comes from focus, discipline, and quiet determination. You'll show them that it's not about how loudly you proclaim your intentions. It's about how steadfastly you pursue them. So, as you move forward from here, I want to challenge you to embrace this philosophy. The next time you set a goal, resist the urge to announce it to the world. Instead, write it down, make a plan, and get to work. Let your actions do the talking, and let your results be the proof. Trust that when the time is right, the world will notice. And when they do, it will be because you've earned it. Remember, success doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need a spotlight or a stage. It grows quietly, steadily, in the quiet moments when no one is watching. So guard your dreams, nurture your focus, and let your actions speak for themselves. That's the path to true success, and it's a path worth walking.